to show you how to make this wire focal unit here to hang a little pendant on or to wire some beads inside. I show you this briefly with a bead from the treasure bag. I show you how to modify this unit. The main tutorial is with this necklace here. So let me actually back off and show you the necklace. And then I do show you how to do a little bit different wiring like this so that you can use this component in many different ways and give other suggestions and such. So once you learn how to make this little component, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. And I know you can't see anything here, but let me try to get this so you can see it. So that is what the necklace looks like that we're going to make with stuff from the treasure bag. However, you don't have to have the treasure bag because this will work with anything you have in your stash. It's a basic technique, and the technique is what I am showing you, and I'm also giving you ideas for the beads you got in your treasure bag. So you can see that my units are a little bit different on each one. And then you can see what I did with this one. And hopefully it gives you some inspiration and you can make yourself some pretty necklaces. So let's go ahead and look and see what it takes to make this project and get started. Okay, for this project, let's go over what we're going to be using. Now, I am using some things from the Summer Bling Fling treasure bag. However, you can use whatever you'd like to do this project. You don't need the pendant. You can make something on a head pin, put a 12mm pearl, glass pearl, or a piece of crystal, or get another pendant. It doesn't matter. You don't necessarily need it. And all the rest of the things are very common and easy to come by. So you can do this with anything you have in your stash. That being said, this is what I'm using from the treasure bag. I'm using this little pendant that came in the treasure bag. And I am also going to be using the jump rings. These jump rings are about 7mm around with an internal diameter of about 6mm. So you can use a 6-7mm jump ring. It'll work just fine. Then I'm going to use some of the chain that came in the treasure bag. This is just a piece of fine Figaro chain. You can use anything you would like for your particular project. Then I'm going to use some of the 6mm round glass dyed white pearls that are in the treasure bag. You can use anything 6mm round that you have in your stash. You could use a crystal, a gemstone, a pearl, glass pearl, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just something 6mm round. And of course, doesn't even necessarily have to be 6mm round. This will work however you want it to work. This is a basic technique. Then I'm going to add to the treasure bag a lobster claw clasp and a jump ring. Now you can use whatever clasping you would like. This is a fairly large, probably about 12mm jump ring this way, maybe 8 this way. Maybe not quite that big, but it's a nice size jump ring. And then I have a heavier gauge jump ring for my ending. These are too light for the end to clasp to. So I am using an 18 gauge stainless steel jump ring that's gold tone. This is a nice, heavy, strong jump ring. I'm also going to add to the treasure bag some 3 to 4mm jump rings. Now this is probably about a 4mm with a 3mm internal diameter. So anything small that will fit around what you're doing will work just fine. You just want something smaller. And these are a little bit heavier gauge also. So they're probably about a 20 gauge. And they're nice and strong metal. I'm going to be using some head pins. Now, you can use some wire for your components if you'd like, but it needs to be at least a 20 gauge, and it should be not dead soft. So you don't want to use an aluminum or anything like that. You want something that's a little bit more medium temper, so German style, something like that will work best. I'm going to use these jump rings because they're small in diameter and they're very strong. So I'm just going to use these head pins. I said jump rings. I'm going to use these head pins. I'm going to cut off the end, and I'm going to make basic loops with them. You can use eye pins. However, I like to make my own side of my loops so I can make them the size that I want. So I'm using a head pin and I'm just going to cut the ends off. I'm also using about 3 inches of wire. Now this is artistic wire. This is a tarnish resistant brass, and this is about medium temper. It's really nice and strong, so it's going to work really good. If you're using this, you can use it also for instead of head pins, but these are a little bit smaller in diameter, so they look a little bit more delicate, so I'm going to use those. But you can use your wire also. And this wire is a 20 gauge, so I'm using this to make the main focal component that our pendant will hang on. So I've got about 3 inches. And then adding to everything, you're going to want to have a ruler and a flat nose, a round nose, a chain nose, a flush cutter, and probably nylon nose pliers. So you'll need those out. And then you're also going to need something you can hammer on a little bit. You can use any smooth surface you'd like. When I very first started, I used to take my pieces out to my garage floor because it was nice and smooth, and I just used a regular hammer. So you can do that too. Or you can have a bench block and a dapping hammer. So these are what I am using. And we're going to go ahead and get started with this project. To start, we are going to make our focal component that our pendant is going to hang on. Now I've just cut a piece, and it's not exactly perfect 3 inches because when it comes off my spool it's kind of bent. So I just cut somewhere around there. It's about, looks like it's more like 3.5. And then I'm just going to put it into my flat nose pliers. I'm going to grab my nylon nose pliers and I'm going to straighten it out. This way I can get a more accurate measurement, which is going to help me find the center of my wire better. Now you don't want to go too crazy with it, but this one is being a little resistant. You work harden your wire as you do this, so you don't want to work harden it too much. So I didn't get it perfectly straight, but it's not too horribly bad. It's not great either, but not too horribly bad. I can get my measurement pretty well here. Actually, let me straighten out one more time. Okay. All right, that's a little bit better. So what I'm going to do, let me get you in here so you can see. I am going to grab my flush cutters, and the first thing I'm going to do is flush cut this end, and that is the flat end of your pliers. This inside part is not flush cutting, it's flush cutting when you cut on this side. So use that side, flush cut it, and then put it on your ruler, and right at 3 inches I'm going to grab it and I'm going to cut it. It'll make it a little easier for me to measure and get my middle portion here, my center of my wire. So now I'm going to grab my round nose pliers. I'm going to put my wire right at the 3-inch mark, and right at 1.5 inches I am going to grab my wire. So right here I'm going to grab it, and then I'm just going to move it down my pliers to the end so that I have it on the widest part of my plier. Now very end of mine is flat, so I'm not going to go all the way to the end. If I go all the way to the end to get a wider loop, then the bottom of my loop turns out flat. So I'm just going as far as I can to get a decent bend in my wire. And then I am going to grab both ends of my wire and I'm going to bring it up around this plier. Now you can see I still didn't get perfect center. And that's okay. It was a good try, just didn't work out perfect. So what I'm going to do is cut this side. That's why I have a little bit extra wire than we actually need to start with. so that we can allow for miscalculations here. So this is what I have. Now, actually, I'm going to put it back in my plier. I just wanted you to see what it ended up to be. I'm going to put it back in my plier, the same spot I was at, and I'm going to cross these wires. Like this. Now you don't want to cross too low down because you want a nice teardrop shape. Each component you make is going to be different than the last, but I'm just showing you the basics here so you can get basically the same thing I've got, and you may want to practice it a couple times because though this looks fairly simple, it can be not quite as easy as it looks. Now I want to put some loops in the top of this wire here. I have a mark that I put before, but I don't really want that mark. I'm going to mark where I'm going to turn this wire so that I can make both sides the same. I'm going to go about here, I think. I'm going to grab a hold of this wire in my plier on that mark. So I should have marked it on the other side, but that's okay. I'm going to go about right where I put my mark, like this. I'm going to make sure I have my wire inside the pliers to the very end of the wire, and then I'm going to start to turn. So I'm just going to turn as far as I can turn, take my pliers out, reposition it on that little mark, and continue turning. Until I get something that looks like this. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I want to use this mark right here, put my plier in there, and just start to turn. Turn as far as I can turn, take my plier out, and put it back in. I'm having a hard time seeing my little mark. There we go. And put it back on that mark and continue to turn. And this is what I have. Now, my cross of wires is way up towards the top, a little too high, so I'm going to cross it down a little bit, just like this. All you have to do is just separate them, just a little bit like that. Then I want to make sure that my loops are closed, so I'm going to grab my loop, I'm going to bring it up like you would open a jump ring, and then I'm going to bring it forward towards the long part of the wire and shimmy it down until that loop is closed. Then I'm going to do the other side the same way. Now your loops aren't going to be exactly the same. You just want to try to get them as close as you can. This one's a little bit bigger than that one, and I can, if I'm feeling very brave, reach in and cut that a little bit. But what I think I'd rather do is try to make this one a little bit bigger by sliding it down, and then I'll reclose it. And that helped doctor it up a little bit. Now, this is what we have. That's a little wonky right at this moment, and that's okay. You're going to take your flat nose pliers, and right where these wires cross, you're going to grab a hold. Oh, come on, you. And just bend very lightly out, like this. And then on this side, just very lightly out. Just a little bit, like this, to just get a better shape that's going to hold. Now, we're going to grab a bench block, or you can go outside, or whatever you want to do, and we're going to gently hammer the bottom of this. You don't have to do a ton, just a little bit. Then I'm going to hammer this side. Then I'm going to hammer the loops on top here and flatten and harden them. Just a little bit. Now, where your wire crosses, you generally don't want to hammer too much. I'm just going to make one little tap so that everything stays in place. And that's it. Just like that. Now, I want to look and see what I've got here. And this one. There. Now, I have a component. It looks just like this. It's not perfect. These are handmade, guys, so you know they're not going to be absolutely perfect, but you can make them look pretty nice. And here's another one I made. Here's a bigger one I made, and here's another bigger one I made. Now I'm thinking with something like this, I could wire into it a little pearl, or I can just use it as a bigger component, whatever. But or you can, if you end up making a bigger one, you can put your pendant on it too. Doesn't matter. You can wire some little beads on it. You can do whatever you want. You can use this component in any size that you would like to use it in for any project you'd like. So this is just a basic technique that you can use to put a little bit of pizzazz into a plain necklace. Now, I'm going to go ahead and grab my component. Let's see, which one do I like better? No, this one's fine. So I am going to then make some components to put on to the chain part here. But first, I'm just going to put my pendant on here. So I'm going to grab one of my tiny jump rings, because this component is going this way, and so is my loop on my pendant. I need something that's going to hang in between this way. So I'm going to open a jump ring. So just find your opening, twist it from side to side like this, and I'm going to put on my pendant and then on my component, and then see if I can close it. This is a small jump ring, so it's kind of hard to grab onto. And just close that. And now I have a cute little focal. I'm going to make a couple components to hang from here. I need to close these loops here. This must be my other one I made. So I know I closed the ones I showed you guys. It doesn't matter. We're just going to close these loops just like you'd close a jump ring. Shimmy them closed like that. And I want to doctor this just a little bit. I'll probably end up messing it up. You know how that is. You think you're making it better and you screwed up. So anyway, that's what that looks like right there. And we're going to just set that aside, and we're going to begin making some components. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make 6 little pearl dangles, because we want to dangle from these two little curvies. We're going to dangle some pearls. So what you want to do is you want to pick up one of your pearls on one of your head pins, and then we are going to do a wrapped component for this one. So we're going to place it on the head pin, place the plier on the head pin right above the pearl, and bend it over. Figure out exactly how big you want your loop. I don't want mine huge, so I'm going right about here on my plier. Then I'm going to turn my plier and bring the excess wire over the top. Let me get you in a little bit closer. So this is what I've got. Now, I'm going to bring my wire underneath the prong of the pliers like this. So I start vertical and then I end horizontal like this with my wrist, like this. Now I can just adjust my loop a little bit, make sure it looks like I want it. I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers, place my loop inside my flat nose pliers, hold onto them tightly, and then adjust the excess piece of wire to the same angle that the plier is, so parallel to the plier. And then I'm going to switch hands and hold this in my left hand. I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to begin turning this wire around the wire that's going into the pearl. And I'm going to turn it probably 2.5, 3 times. As far as I can turn it, just like that. And then I'm going to take this off, and I am going to flush cut this as close as I can get it. And then I'm going to hold this in my chain nose pliers so that it doesn't turn. I'm going to grab another little pair. I have these little pair of pliers, these little Xuron pliers, and it's a combination crimp and chain nose, and I'm going to just tuck it in with that while holding it in my chain nose pliers so that it doesn't turn and I can actually get that tucked in. And tuck it in just a little bit better. Make sure you get these little tags of wire tucked in really well, or it's going to be pokey and snaggy. So snag people's clothes and poke them. So that one's pretty good. You're going to go ahead and make 6 of those. So go ahead and make 6, okay, and we'll be back. So now you can see I have my 6 components that I will dangle from either side of these little loops here. But first, I want to make the other components that I'm going to need to put my necklace together, and then we'll put everything together. So what I'm going to use now is another one of my head pins here, and I am going to grab it, and at the very end, about 3/8 of an inch down, which is about double width of my flat nose pliers, I am going to bend this over, just like this. Then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and I'm going to place it over my finger like this so I can balance it. And this might be a little bit long, but that's okay. Right about here on my pliers, I am going to just decide how big it works for your first loop. So if you need to bend it over, try a couple of them so that you know exactly where to place your pliers, and then place it at the very end of the wire and start to turn. Turn as far as you can and then bring your wrist around and turn the rest of the way. You can exit once you're pretty much all the way there. Put your pliers in to the front of the pliers and just finish turning that loop. Now, if it's a little bent, you can straighten it up with your flat nose pliers. You can also close it by lifting it and shimmying it down towards the neck of the turn there, right there. Now, cut off the other end. This is a head pin, so I'm going to cut off the end. And then I'm going to slide onto it. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys, we need some 8/0 seed beads. You don't necessarily have to, but I'll put that in caption. We're going to use some 8/0 seed beads. So I'm going to slide an 8/0 seed bead on, and then I'm going to slide on a pearl, and then an 8/0 seed bead, and another pearl, and an 8/0 seed bead. And these are going to be our components. All we have to do is finish the end here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my flat nose pliers just a little bit above that 8/0 seed bead, just enough to give me a bend without breaking my little bead, and I'm going to bend this over, just like this. I'm going to place it on my finger, like this, like an L, so I'm holding onto the pearls, and then I know that I can cut about the width of my finger, and that's about 3/8 of an inch. You will just have to judge it. You can measure it first and then cut it. I'm going to cut it. And flinging the wire across the room is not a good idea, like I just did. So don't do that, okay? Don't do as I say, not as I do. All right. Now I'm going to place right about the same place I placed before onto my plier, my wire in there at the very end. Just make sure. And then I'm going to start to turn as far as I can turn, and then I'm just going to bring my wrist forward and turn some more. And then when I'm almost all the way there, I'll take my plier out, put it on the other side, and just turn it. So I mean by the other side, I'm just putting it this way. I'm turning the plier, putting it this way, and finishing my loop like this. Now I didn't pay attention to how I was turning it according to the other side or comparably to the other side. I just turned it. So now I have to straighten it out by putting pliers on either side. And then I'm going to close this loop and close them tightly. And that is my component right there. So you're going to make 6 of these components just like this. So go ahead and make 6 of these and then we'll be back. So as you can see, I've made my 6 double units with the 2 pearls and the loops on either side, and then my 6 single pearls with the 1 wrapped loop, and then I have my component ready here and my small jump rings. Now this is a necklace I made earlier here. I just flipped it all around, hang on. And I want to show you basically what we're going to do so that you can be prepared for that. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to connect these 6 small pearls that we made on either side. And as you can see, this component is much longer than this component that I made too. So like I said, each one is going to be a little different. It's not a whole lot longer, but it is longer. So it just depends on how much wire you cut in the beginning. And this one I probably cut 4 inches. This one I cut 3. So, you know, you can make it however you'd like. Anyway, we're going to put onto our jump rings the little individual pearls here. So let me show you. So I'm going to grab my tiny jump rings and I'm going to open one. Just grab on either side of the opening of the jump ring and twist. Just like that. And then I'm going to put this one on, and then I'm going to drop it on to my component. And these are small jump rings, so trying to find surface to open and close them sometimes can be a little challenging. So I'm just going to drop it on there and close it. And I'm going to do another one exactly the same way, and then the third one we are going to do a little differently. I did not get that closed even a little bit. Hang on a second, guys. Make sure you get these jump rings actually closed. And these little ones are not as nicely cut as I would like them to be. There we go. So I've got one connected, and then I'm going to grab another of the jump rings here, open it, and I think I'll drop this one on. I had 2 different colors of of head pins. I just noticed all my colors are different, but I'm gonna make it work by balancing the colors. Okay, so now I have 2 of my pearls onto this little loopy guy here on my component. Now I am going to grab another jump ring and open it. Oh, come on, you. And drop my third component on there, and then I'm going to put these 2 jump rings together. Let me get you in real close so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to put these 2 jump rings that are holding the loops of the pearls together, and I am going to slide this jump ring through both of those jump rings. Get them both on there, and it can be a little bit of a trick. But this is going to hold the 3 components together so that they lay properly on the loop here. Sorry, it's arguing with me. So this is what I have. I have both of these 2 jump rings through this 1 jump ring, and then I also have my pearl on it. Then I'm going to close this jump ring, and I'll show you laid out what it looks like. Boy, I'm just really graceful here. These are really strong jump rings too, though. So what it does is it holds this third jump, or this third pearl, forward. So when you lift this up, they lay in a cluster like this, and it lays really nicely. So what I've done, let me get it so you can see it. Oh, maybe that's a little too close. Clear up, you. Okay, so what I've done is I put the one jump ring with this third pearl on it through the two jump rings that these two pearls are hanging on, just like that. And that, instead of connecting it to the loop, I'm connecting it to the two jump rings. That will hold this in a cluster instead of them just spreading straight out, which they will when you lay it down like this. But when you pick it up, it'll cluster like this. And that just makes a little bit different look and kind of holds everything together nice. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So go ahead and put your 3 pearls on this side exactly the same way we did this side. And then we will be back. Okay, so you can see that I have my 3 little units on either side of my pendant now on my focal in the loops here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my other units that we made here, the other components, with 2 jump rings in between each section. So I'll put these 2 here and these 2 here. We're going to do one side completely because I'm going to do 3 links of jump rings in between each of these 2 units. So what we're going to do is let's do one side on camera and then the other side off camera. I'm just going to grab one of these jump rings the same way I've been doing and find the opening here, twist it open, and I'm going to pop it on here and pop this component on too. Alright, so I was not in camera. So all I've done is put the big jump ring on the loop of the component that we made, our focal component, and then the link component, drop it on, and then close the jump ring. Now, because these are such fine jump rings, I am going to double the links with them just to make sure that they're more secure and they look pretty that way. So I am just going to open another one. I'm going to go through the loop on the component, the focal component, and then through the loop on the link component. Just make sure you don't get them crossed and weird. They need to lay next to each other like this. See, this other jump ring is down here. And then just close it. And I'll lay it out so you can see what I'm talking about. Because the way I'm holding it, it's just not going to be easy for you to see. So basically, just make sure your 2 jump rings get next to each other and they're not crossed or anything. Just like that. And make sure they're closed tightly. And then we're going to do a triple unit here. So we're going to open a jump ring and put it on. And I think I'm just going to open 2. Well, no. I'm just going to go ahead and put this one on, put this one on, close it, and oops, I don't want that one. Sorry guys, I messed up. We don't want this one yet. We just want a jump ring. So just put a jump ring on and close it because we're going to do a triple link here. So put a jump ring on and close it. Let me rearrange my camera. And then grab another jump ring and put it on. Sorry for the confusion. And close it. Then, through both of these jump rings, grab another jump ring and put it through both of them, just like this. So you can see. And then grab another jump ring and put it next to the one you just put on. So go through both of those previous jump rings and close it. Now on the next 2 is where we're going to add our component, our link component. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a jump ring and I'm going to grab my link, put it on my link component. Then I'm going to go through both the jump rings on the links that I made previously and close it. And then I'll do that one more time. So I'll grab another of my jump rings, and I will go through both of these links here and then through the component link and drop it down. And this is what it should look like so far. And we're going to do the same thing with this link. We're going to put 3 links in between, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So let me see what we've got here. Let me show you what it looks like. Turn this over. Oh, come on, you. All right. So this is what we're going to do. We have already put on 1 link with 3 units, and then the next link, you're going to put 3 units of jump rings in between, 3 links here of double jump rings, and then you're going to connect your next unit. And then we'll come back and connect our chain. So all you have to do now, because we're this far, is make 3 more links, put on your component, and we'll come back. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished this side connecting my components with my sets of jump rings in between, and now I have cut a 4-inch piece of chain here. This is going to be about an 18-inch necklace, 18, 19 inches, right around there once I get my clasping on. So if you want a longer necklace, you can either make more of these components or you can go ahead and cut a longer piece of chain. So cut 2 pieces the same and make sure you end on the bigger units of links. In the Figaro chain, there's small links in between the big ones. I've ended on a big one on both sides. And then I have a little jump ring, one of the little 4mm jump rings, and I'm just going to go ahead and open it. And I'm going to slide my chain on it. And then I'm going to slide it onto the last component, the loop on the last component, and close it. Make sure it's closed well. And then I'm going to grab my half of my clasping. Now if you're going to use your jump ring half, either use a closed jump ring or make sure you close a nice heavy gauge jump ring tightly, and you will attach it the same way you'll attach your lobster claw. You'll just put a little jump ring on it and attach it, and then on this one I'm going to put a little jump ring on the lobster claw. I like my clasping end, my lobster claw, to be on this side, whichever side you prefer, because this is a necklace that has to be on one side or the other. So I like mine to be on this side. And then I'm going to close this little jump ring after I put my lobster claw on it. Attach it to the chain. And I don't even know if I was in frame, sorry guys, but anyway, I just put a jump ring on the lobster claw, put it on the chain, closed it, and this is what we have for this end. So now we are going to go ahead and do the other side exactly the same way. So go ahead and start connecting your components with your jump rings. 2 jump rings first, do it exactly the same way that you did this side. Put your chain on with your other side of your clasping, and then we will be back. Okay, my beautiful bead lovers, this is what it turns out to be. Just like this. Let me get the whole thing in here so you can see it, and that's what it looks like. So I've done both sides, went ahead and attached my clasping, and this is what it looks like. It turns out really pretty. It lays on the neck nice. And I'm going to hold it up if I can so you can see basically how these pearls cluster. If you can see that, let me get it in a little bit closer. When you hang it, when it's hanging, they cluster like this, and this is what this looks like. And it's really, really very pretty necklace. So that is one idea with that component to hang a pendant from, or you can do something like this. Now, I can go ahead and string something. I may go ahead and just do some stringing on this, but I'm going to show you what I did here. So I put two 8x6 rondelles. I used more wire to start out my component. So I used 5 inches and did exactly the same thing, except for I wrapped it around this pen here, and the pen made it kind of a different little shape down here. And so here's another one I just made with this pen. So I just put it on there just loosely and just hold it around and just bend it in half like that, and then roll your 2 loops on top. Now you can mess with the shape a little bit. You could bend these out. You could make it longer and do bigger loops or whatever you want. You can play with the shape however you want. Generally, they never turn out exactly the same. So I did this one, and it's a little bit thinner than this one. But I wanted to show you how I put the beads inside. So I'm going to use one of the beads from the treasure box. This is the 8mm pearl or imitation jade peach color, and then I'm going to cut a piece of 24 gauge wire. 26 would probably work better than this for this, because I find myself kind of boggling up and bending up this wire. 26 gauge would probably work a little bit better, but I'm just cutting about 6 inches, I would say. Let me see, just to give you reference, because yeah, this is right around 6 inches. And then I am going to begin by putting this behind the wire and just holding it here, and then I'm going to begin bending this, coiling this, and I'm going to coil the short side because it's very hard to coil the long side, and this is probably way too much wire anyway. I'm just going to bring it around like this, and then I'm going to push it back up through. And like I said, I boggle my wire all up. I'm just doing it as gently as I can. I'm going to push these 2 little coils together here. Hold on to it. And just keep coiling it around. And I can push these coils together and make this a little neater, like this. And I'll show you. I'll get you closer so you can actually see what I'm doing. Just like this. So it looks really sloppy. My wire gets all weird, and you know, there's really just kind of the way it's going to be, because like I said, I'm not the best wire worker in the world. And then I just push my coils together, tighten them up by pulling on the lengths of them. This one on the bottom, I want to end towards the outside. I'm going to squeeze this against my wire just a little bit. End this on the outside here. Cut it down really close, and then push this down over the top so it's over the outside here, and tuck it in the best I can. Okay, now I'm going to take this wire, and this is moving a little, so I'm going to take my flat nose pliers. And it can move a little because I'm not sure where I want to position it yet, but I'm just going to kind of squeeze it just a little bit. I'm going to take this and wrap it around so I bring it to the inside here. Just like this. And then I'm going to grab my bead, and I think I lost him. Where did you go? Beady bead. I get another beady bead. Okay, there he is. We'll use him because, you know. Alright, I'm going to slide him on this wire here. I could conceivably put a seed bead on either side too, but I think that's going to fit about right. And then I want to wrap down because all my coils are down this way, so I want to go down towards the bottom of my bead. I'm going to go up through the wire, pull my wire around as tightly as I can, and then I'll just keep feeding it through the bottom here where I have a little space. Bring it up around, pull it tight. Come on, you. Pull tight. There we go. And I'll just do about the same amount of coils I have on the other side. And like I said, 26 gauge wire would probably be a little bit easier to work with. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, one more. Just like that. I'm going to cut it. And tuck it. There's really no place for me to put my pliers on this. There we go. Okay, I hope I've stayed in camera because I really was not paying attention at all. But then I'm going to straighten up my 2 coils. And then I'm going to straighten this back up again. And I messed him up pretty good because I get really brutal when I'm doing this. So I'm going to tap him a little bit again and see if I can put him back together. Probably really shouldn't tap where you cross it. But I can also take a piece of wire and wrap it around the center there too. And I may try that off camera. But you get the gist of how this works. Just don't be as brutal as I am. I just get my hands going and I just... So, I'll probably wrap a little piece of wire around the center there and see how that turns out. This one, I didn't have to do that because I wasn't so brutal. And I think my main problem is I didn't move these out to position them to stay. So if I move these out a little bit, yeah, that's better. I'll have to work with the shape a little bit. But I'm just trying to do it really fast and so that this video isn't horribly long. But I just wanted to show you what you could do with this component. You can mess with it and go ahead and string something on either side, put dangles on it, connect jump rings, make little individual units like we did on this one, whatever you want to do. You can make these really pretty and you can use them in so many different ways. Like I said, you could put a bicone in there, a 6mm bicone, and that would be really pretty. If you can make 2 match really nice, you could make a set of earrings, I would think, if you... Oh, I don't know how you would attach it, but you could put like 2 pieces of chain here and a jump ring here and attach it. That would work. So I could, even for a pendant, to hang it centered instead of chain coming either way, you could, if I could find my chain, which I cannot because I've been designing and everything's a mess, you could put a little piece of chain here and bend it over, put a little piece of chain here, attach it, and then attach this to a jump ring like that. That would be pretty too. And then you could have a focal like that. You could have an earring like that too if you made it smaller. So, or you can make it big. I don't know. Some people like them really big. So you could do lots of things with these components. And this is just an idea for inspiration. I may go ahead and string this one. All I have to do is get some beading wire and crimp it on either side and string it and then clasp it. So I may do that and come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so here is what I made with the wired unit that I showed you how to do with the peach pearl. I just went ahead and put a couple dangles on it, and then I crimped a little bit of beading wire onto each side, little crimp tube, and then I used 4mm round iron spacers, gold tone, and some 8x6 rondelles, and I just strung it and then attached it to chain. And I realized I didn't show you the entire process. However, I have many videos for the treasure box and bargain bead box and several things that you can see me do the entire process exactly the same as this. So it really shouldn't be difficult to figure it out. But this is basically just an idea, an inspiration that you can use the same component for. And as you can see, on all three of these pieces that I made, my center component is just a little bit different. This one's a little shorter and squattier and a little bit more shaped a little bit differently. And this one is longer and skinnier. And it doesn't matter. They're all just as pretty as the last one. So in this one with a little bit of extra wiring, I just put 2 beads in. I showed you with 1 on the last one, but I did the exact same thing with just 2 beads. So you can use this component and make all kinds of different situations here. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you try it. See you later. Bye-bye.